Welcome to Box Recaps. Today I'm going to explain the movie Chronicle, released in the year 2012. The movie begins with Andrew Detmer, a high school student in Seattle, videotaping his life using an outdated camera he had purchased. While he's getting ready for school in his room, his drunk, alcoholic father, Richard, bangs on his door, demanding that he open it. But Andrew refuses, since he is now inebriated. He continues to bang on the door and demands Andrew to unlock it. Andrew informs him that he's filming everything with his camera. Andrew also informs him that he will be filming everything from now on, prompting him to give up and storm out. His mother is very unwell and bedridden at home. She's dying of cancer. Andrew shows his mother his new camera and asks her to greet him while staring through the lens. She wonders who the audience for this video will be, and Andrew informs her that it will be millions of people viewing his movies from their homes. She wonders whether she looks okay, since she doesn't want to seem horrible in Andrew's video. He compliments her on her appearance, and she compliments him on his new camera. Andrew is waiting to leave his house for school. Andrew is driven to school by his cousin Matt because Andrew does not have a driver's license or a car. Matt challenges Andrew's filming, but accepts it awkwardly when Andrew says it's just something he does now. Andrew tapes their whole journey to school, during which Matt can be heard singing songs and performing dancing routines while driving. On the way, Matt asks Andrew about a philosopher named Arthur Schopenhauer, and Andrew assures him that he has never been wounded by him. Matt informs him that he's a philosopher who he's been reading about. This is unrelated to his school, but he enjoys reading his views. As he explains Arthur Schopenhauer's philosophy to Andrew, Andrew comes to the conclusion that he should give up on life, and they both begin to laugh. Although Matt is Andrew's best buddy, he still avoids him at school by having Andrew go in first while he sits and waits in his car before going in himself. As Andrew enters the school, he notices that the elections for the school's senior class president are approaching, and he sees posters supporting Steve, who is running for the job, wherever he looks. A female runs up to Andrew, hands him a flyer, and encourages him to vote for Steve for senior class president. Steve appeared to be well known at school. Andrew takes notes while eating his lunch on the sidelines of the football fields. The football team and cheerleaders may both be seen practicing. Samantha, one of the cheerleaders, approaches Andrew and requests that he not videotape them since it appears strange. Andrew is discovered to be disliked and frequently tormented and harassed, especially by a youngster named Wayne. Wayne grabs Andrew's camera from him and mocks it since it is an outdated camera. As he bullies him, he ultimately drops it to the ground, yet the camera survives and continues to function. On the drive home, Matt invites Andrew to a party that night that he intends to attend. Andrew is hesitant, but Matt persists since this is Andrew's last chance to achieve something for himself as a senior. Andrew says he'll think about it. Matt proposes that Andrew leave the camera behind, since it may alienate people from him, but Andrew insists on its importance. Andrew returns home, and as he walks down his street, he begins filming the douchebags of his street, whom Andrew despises. They notice Andrew photographing them and are irritated, so they start running after him, pleading with him to stop. That night, as Andrew was adding a flashlight to his camera, a drunk Richard comes in and pushes Andrew from his desk chair, directing Andrew to open his bedroom door when he says no. As he walks away, he encourages Andrew to complete his homework right now. After that, Andrew returns to his desk and shuts off the camera's flashlight. He subsequently chooses to accept Matt's invitation to the party that night. Matt picks up Andrew and they drive to the party, where they observe many people getting ready for the rave party. At the party, Matt asks that Andrew leave him alone and go chat with other people. He instructs Andrew to go have a beer and meet new people. Andrew tells him that he does not drink and continues photographing the gathering. Casey, who is also shooting the party, notices Andrew's filming. Matt appears, and it is shown that Matt has a crush on her as he attempts, but fails, to make a pass on her. However, as the party progresses, Andrew's recording attracts the ire of an intoxicated participant who believes he is filming under the incorrect conditions, and Andrew departs the rave dejected. When approached outdoors by Steve Montgomery, the school's popular star quarterback and future politician, Andrew agrees to accompany him and Matt in recording something weird they discovered in the surrounding woods, a hole in the ground emitting a loud and strange noise. When the three enter the hole, they find a gigantic blue blazing crystalline thing. The thing glows crimson as Andrew films it, and the group is struck with nosebleeds and discomfort. The camera goes dark. Andrew captures himself with a fresh new camera, Matt and Steve as they demonstrate telekinetic talents, able to move items with their minds, but experiencing nosebleeds when they overexert themselves. When they return to the hole, it has collapsed and the sheriff's department has sealed off the area for safety. The two connect while driving in Steve's automobile. Steve is also concerned about Andrew's filming practices, thinking that it creates a barrier around him. Andrew believes he wants that. Andrew tells Steve about his dysfunctional family life, which includes a sick mother and an alcoholic father. Later that night, in Andrew's room, we hear Richard shouting angrily with someone on the phone, showing that he's battling financially to keep his mother well. Matt thinks that as their powers get more powerful, they work like muscles, becoming stronger with usage. The three lads form a strong connection and start playing pranks on each other, such as frightening children at a market by levitating toys at them and shifting vehicles around in a parking lot, baffling people when they return. When Andrew levitates a belligerent trucker off the road and into a river, things go too far. Although Steve pulls the man from the river and Matt summons authorities to transport him to a hospital, they're startled and enraged that Andrew would go so far. Andrew doesn't understand their rage. Matt reminds him that he admitted someone to the hospital. As a result, Matt makes 3 rules. They never use their powers against living beings. They never use them in passion or anger, and they should definitely stop using them in public. Despite Andrew's protests, he's overridden when Matt says that it's what they need now that they're stronger, and Steve agrees. The next day, Steve texts Andrew and Matt to arrange a meeting. On the way, Matt emphasizes that while he isn't angry with Andrew, he believes they should start thinking before acting now that they're stronger. Though they meet where Steve informed them, he is not immediately found, until Steve appears to them floating in the sky, having learned to fly. Though Matt struggles to keep up, Andrew is the first to get it straight away. They take a trip to toss a football, but a passing jet knocks Steve down, and Andrew saves his life from a potentially catastrophic fall. Andrew expresses an interest in seeing Tibet due to its tranquil atmosphere, and they agree to travel across the world together after graduation. Steve and Matt both agree on this. Matt visits Casey's residence and tries to make a pass on her by stating he's no longer the arrogant nerd he once was. Meanwhile, Steve and Andrew are sitting on top of the Seattle Space Needle discussing their future plans and how Andrew's relationship with Matt was different in high school when they were close friends, until Matt began avoiding him. Steve pushes Andrew to participate in the school talent contest in order to earn popularity. Before he leaves, his mother expresses her appreciation for his pals, but his alcoholic father is doubtful of Andrew's ability to travel to school without Matt's assistance. He tells Andrew he's on him, believing he's up to something. Andrew dazzles his classmates at the talent show by disguising his abilities as an excellent exhibition of magic tricks, juggling, and tightrope walking. Andrew, Matt, and Steve celebrate that night at a home party, where Andrew is the focus of attention. Andrew and his classmate Monica walk upstairs to have sex after drinking with her. Casey is also at the party, and they strike up a conversation as Casey encourages Matt to accompany her elsewhere. Meanwhile, Steve approaches Andrew to congratulate him on his accomplishment, but he hears Monica scream in horror as she storms out of the room and vomits all over her. He enters the room and finds Andrew humiliated. Steve attempts to reassure him that things like this happen and that there's nothing to worry about, but Andrew yells at him and throws him out of the room. Andrew withdraws and grows increasingly aggressive. Andrew's father ultimately discovers his camera and chastises him for keeping such an expensive thing to himself while he's struggling financially. He also started accusing Andrew of squandering all of his money and erroneously claims Matt and Steve are not his pals, labeling him an embarrassment. Andrew responds by calling him an idiot. This enrages Richard even more, and Andrew uses his ability to overpower him, pushing him against a wall and stating that he can crush him if he wants to, before dumping the beaten Richard to the ground. Steve and Matt suffer nosebleeds and agony as a result of this outburst. Matt disregards the nosebleed in order to have sex with Casey, but Steve is pulled to Andrew, who's floating in the midst of a storm. Andrew inquires as to how he discovered him and tells how the nosebleed drew him to him. He observes Andrew's black eye and understands it was caused by his father. An upset Andrew advises him to quit acting as if he cared about Andrew's condition, feeling Steve was never his buddy in the first place. Steve informs him that he has always been there for him and Matt, but Andrew becomes increasingly upset, urging Steve to leave him alone until Steve is hit by lightning and murdered. At Steve's burial, Matt confronts Andrew about the strange circumstances surrounding Steve's death. Although Steve was killed by lightning, no lightning strikes were recorded on the news, and his body was discovered in a field, although there's no reason for Steve to be out there. He is also appalled that Andrew is shooting during a funeral and asks that he turn off the camera, but Andrew refuses and tells Matt to step aside. He denies any knowledge or culpability, but Matt is skeptical. Later, Andrew quietly begs forgiveness at Steve's grave, fearing that his talents are taking over him and that he misses him, proving Matt's point. Andrew gets estranged from Matt and finds himself alone and disliked at school once more. He uses his abilities to tear numerous teeth from Wayne's mouth after being bullied again. Andrew begins to identify as an apex predator, arguing that he should not feel guilty about using his strength to harm individuals less powerful than himself. Andrew travels to pick up his mother's prescription as her condition worsens. Before leaving, Matt enters Andrew's room and confronts him about the events at school with Wayne. Andrew, irritated, attempts to brush him off, but Matt becomes pushy and reminds him of the regulations. Andrew, fed up with Matt, forcefully assures him that he's not breaching the rules and urges him to keep out of his life. Andrew discovers at the drugstore that his mother's prescription is excessively pricey. He then employs his abilities to steal money for her medication. He robs a gas station after robbing several local gangsters and unwittingly causes an explosion, landing him in the hospital and under police investigation. At his bedside, Andrew's distraught father informs him that his mother has died, and he fiercely blames Andrew for her death, blaming him for driving him out of the home to seek him when his mother needed him. He expects Andrew to get up and apologize to him for pulling him away from her in her ultimate hour of need, believing Andrew can hear what he's saying. Andrew awakens, takes his father's hand, and blasts down the hospital room's exterior wall. While visiting a family birthday celebration with Casey, Matt notices a nosebleed and suspects Andrew is in trouble. He hears a television news broadcast on the hospital explosion and realizes it included Andrew. When Matt and Casey arrive at the hospital, they see Andrew hovering outside the facility, dangling his father by his ankle. Andrew abandons his father, blaming him for driving him nuts, only to be saved by Matt. Andrew then uses his powers to cause havoc, pulling up Matt's car and nearly killing Casey before Matt saves her life. Matt approaches Andrew near the Space Needle and attempts to persuade him that it is not too late to turn things around and start anew. Andrew disagrees and chastises Matt for abandoning him when he needed him the most. Matt confesses his shortcomings, but is prepared to make amends provided Andrew ceases his assaults. He attempts to tell Andrew that this isn't who he is, but Andrew declares himself an apex predator, assaulting Matt, and the pair battle throughout the city, smashing through buildings and flinging automobiles as Matt tries to reason with Andrew, who is hurt and infuriated. He proceeds to use his ability to demolish the structures surrounding him, endangering many other people's lives. In order to reach Andrew, Matt pulls a spear from a nearby statue and impales him, killing him. The cops surround Matt, but he flees. Matt arrives in Tibet with Andrew's camera some days later, speaking to the camera while addressing Andrew, apologizing for killing him, but explaining that he had no option. He assures his cousin that he loves him and resolves to utilize his skills for good by discovering what happened to them in the pit. Matt moves the camera to a distant Tibetan temple and adds, "You made it." Matt stands there, and we can see that he's filled with joy as he screams out. His voice echoes in the mountains, and then he looks back at the camera and asks, "Isn't this beautiful?" Before taking off, he bids farewell to Andrew, leaving the camera behind to continue filming the peaceful scene. The movie ends there. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on the notification, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.